Today, we're going to talk about one of the most powerful enemies we face on our journey to greatness: excuses. Excuses are the chains that keep us bound to our current circumstances. They steal our potential, slow us down, and distort our view of what's possible. But here's the truth. You were not created to live in the shadow of your excuses. You were created to break free, to rise above, and to do what others say can't be done. No excuses, no limits, no holding back. The speech: we all have reasons for why things don't happen. We all have things we can point to justify why we didn't do what we were supposed to do, why we didn't reach our goals, why we didn't follow through on our dreams. But what I want you to understand today is this: every time you make an excuse, you're letting go of your power. Every time you give in to the lie that the situation is too big, too difficult, or too far out of reach, you're letting your circumstances control you instead of rising above them. It's time for us to stop giving our energy to excuses and start giving it to our potential. Think about all the times you've been held back by an excuse. Maybe it was fear, doubt, a lack of resources, or thinking you're not qualified. But here's what I want you to know. No excuse is strong enough to hold you back from what you were made to do. Your dreams, your destiny, your purpose, none of those things will ever be limited by the excuses you create. But they will be limited by the decisions you make. Will you decide to let your excuses dictate your life, or will you choose to take action despite them? Excuses are chains. They don't look like chains at first. They look like reasons, like logic, like protection. They dress themselves up as something sensible, something safe. I don't have the time. I didn't grow up with support. I don't have the connections. I'm not ready. But every time you say those words, every time you let that mindset win, it tightens the grip on your potential. And before you know it, you're no longer making one excuse, you're living in them. Excuses feel comfortable because they give us an escape route. They make us feel like we're not failing, just delaying. Not quitting, just pausing. But that's the trap. They keep you from moving. They keep you from growing. They convince you that standing still is somehow safer than stepping out. But you weren't created to be safe, you were created to be strong. And you cannot be strong while chained to something that keeps you small. What you allow will continue. If you allow excuses to take root, they'll grow into a mindset of limitation. And that mindset will affect everything: your relationships, your work, your purpose. You'll stop dreaming, stop trying, stop believing because the chains have convinced you that it's just not for you. But the truth is, your excuses are lying to you. They aren't protecting you, they're imprisoning you. The only way to move forward is to recognize that those excuses, no matter how real they feel, are not the final authority in your life. Just because something is hard doesn't mean it's impossible. Just because you've failed before doesn't mean you can't win now. Excuses don't have the right to dictate your future, not unless you let them. So you've got to decide, are you going to live chained, or are you going to rise? There is power in responsibility. The moment you stop blaming everything around you and start owning your choices, that's the moment your life begins to shift. Because here's the truth. You cannot change what you won't take responsibility for. As long as you keep pointing the finger at your past, your parents, your environment, your lack of opportunity, you are handing over your power. You're giving your future away to things you can't control. Responsibility doesn't mean everything is your fault, but it does mean everything is your move. You didn't choose what hurt you, but you can choose how you heal. You didn't pick the storm, but you decide how you stand in it. And once you realize that your next step is in your hands, not anyone else's, you become dangerous to every excuse that ever tried to keep you small. Owning your life is not easy, it's humbling. It forces you to look in the mirror and admit that sometimes the greatest enemy to your progress isn't out there. It's in here. It's your mindset. It's your habits. It's the silent agreement you've made with yourself that settling is safer than stretching. But growth doesn't happen in comfort zones. Growth happens when you take responsibility for where you are and then take action to go where you need to be. Responsibility is not a weight that drags you down. It's a key that unlocks doors. When you carry it, you stop waiting for someone else to fix it, to fund it, to notice it, to believe in it. You stop waiting and you start building. That's where your power lies, not in excuses, not in blame, but in bold, uncomfortable, radical ownership. When you embrace that, you become unstoppable. Your circumstances don't define you. They may describe where you are, but they don't determine who you are, and they certainly don't get to decide where you're going. Too many people look at their environment, their background, their current struggles, and make the mistake of thinking, this is it. This is all there is for me. But the truth is, your current condition is not your permanent position. It's just a chapter, not the whole story. It's easy to believe the lie that you are limited by what's around you, by how much money you have, where you were born, how others have treated you, or how many times you've failed. But none of those things carry the power to define you unless you hand it over to them. And far too often, we let our environment tell us who we are, when we should be letting our vision lead us into who we're becoming. You might be surrounded by struggle right now. You might be dealing with rejection, with loneliness, with pressure that feels unbearable. But even in the middle of that mess, there is something inside you that refuses to quit. That hunger to grow, to move forward, to become something more. That's who you really are. Not your bank account, not your family history, not the opinion of people who gave up on their own dreams. The core of you is built for more, and nothing around you has the right to keep you from that unless you allow it. Some of the greatest breakthroughs in history came from people who had every reason to stop, every excuse to say, this isn't possible. But they refused to let their situation define them. They chose to believe that what was in them was greater than what was around them, and that same choice is available to you right now. You don't have to wait for your circumstances to change to start moving forward. You just have to stop believing that they have the final say. Excuses are a choice. They may not feel like a choice in the moment. They may sound like truth, like reality, like something you had no control over. But if you look closer, every excuse is a decision to stay where you are rather than push into what could be. You choose it when you let fear speak louder than faith. You choose it when you decide comfort is better than growth. You choose it every time you say, I can't, without ever trying. It's easy to get used to the language of limitation. I don't have time. I'm too young. I'm too old. I've already failed. But those phrases are not facts, they are choices. And the more you repeat them, the more you begin to live like they are true. You begin to shrink your vision, lower your expectations, and settle into survival mode instead of rising into purpose. But it didn't start with the struggle, it started with a choice to believe the struggle was stronger than you. This is the hard truth. No one else can take your excuses from you. You have to drop them yourself. You have to decide that your future matters more than your pride, that your purpose is worth more than your comfort, that moving forward, even if it's messy, even if it's slow, is better than sitting in the same place with perfectly packaged reasons for why you never stepped out. Every time you make an excuse, you delay your own breakthrough. You give up the authority to grow, to fight, to rise. But when you choose to silence that voice that says it's too late, too hard, too risky, you begin to reclaim your power. You realize that excuses may knock on the door, but they don't get to live in your house unless you let them in. You can't always control what happens to you, but you can always control how you respond. And when you choose not to make an excuse, you're choosing to move, you're choosing progress over paralysis, and that choice can change everything. Fear and doubt don't have to win. They will show up, that's a guarantee. They don't knock politely either. They barge in loud and convincing, dressed up like wisdom, pretending to protect you from disappointment, failure, or rejection. But what they're really doing is robbing you. Robbing you of opportunity, of courage, of the chance to see what you're truly capable of. You can feel fear and still move. You can hear doubt and still believe. Too many people wait to feel confident before they act. They wait for the fear to leave, for the doubt to quiet down, but what if that day never comes? What if the real growth happens not when fear disappears, but when you move asterisk with asterisk it? What if boldness isn't the absence of fear, but the decision to move forward in spite of it? Fear is not your enemy, in fact. It's often a sign that you're stepping into something important. Doubt is not a disqualifier, it's an invitation to deepen your faith and stretch your mindset. You don't lose the moment fear arrives. You lose the moment you let it sit in the driver's seat. Fear can ride in the car, but it doesn't get to steer. What separates people who rise from those who stay stuck isn't that they don't feel afraid, it's that they've trained themselves not to obey that fear. They've decided that the possibility of breakthrough matters more than the comfort of staying safe. They've stopped looking for perfect timing and started creating it through action, and that's something you can do too. You have a decision to make. Let fear and doubt lead your life, or let courage and belief lead it. They'll both speak, but only one gets to lead. And when you learn to feel the fear and move anyway, to hear the doubt and still take the step, you'll realize something powerful. Fear may knock, but it doesn't have to win. Action breaks the chains. You can think, plan, and dream all day, but until you move, nothing changes. Excuses lose their power the moment you take a step forward, even a small one. The grip of fear, the weight of doubt, the heaviness of insecurity, all of it starts to crack when you decide to do something. Not when you have the perfect conditions, not when you feel 100% ready, but when you simply move. We often wait for motivation to show up before we act. But motivation isn't what gets you started, movement is. Action creates momentum, and momentum is what carries you through the hard days, the resistance, the uncertainty. You don't need to know every step. You just need to take the next one, that next phone call, that next conversation, that application, that prayer, that workout. Whatever it is, it's enough to get the wheel turning. Here's the lie excuses want you to believe: you're stuck. But you're not stuck, you're just not moving. And yes, movement is uncomfortable. Yes, it's awkward and unpredictable. But stillness, when it's powered by fear, is far more dangerous than failure, because staying still creates a habit, and over time, that habit becomes your identity. But when you take action, even imperfect action, you start rewriting the story. Some of the most life-changing breakthroughs don't come from a loud, dramatic moment. They come from a quiet decision to try, to show up, to begin. And when you do, you prove to yourself that progress is possible, that you are not powerless, that you are not defined by what held you back yesterday. Don't wait for the chains to fall off before you move. Move and the chains will fall. Move and the excuses will start to crumble, because action is what reminds fear it doesn't have the final word. It's what silences doubt. It's what ignites faith. You don't need the full picture to take the first step, you just need the courage to act. Your destiny is on the other side of your excuses. Everything you've been praying for, hoping for, dreaming about. It's not locked away behind someone else's decision or hidden in some far-off future. It's right there, waiting on the other side of that excuse you keep telling yourself. That excuse might be dressed up in logic, in fear, in pain from the past. It might sound like, "I'm not ready," "I've failed before," or "I don't have what it takes." But behind that wall of reasons is everything you were born to become, and the only way to get there is to stop making peace with what's been holding you back. Excuses are clever. They don't always sound negative. Sometimes they even sound noble, like, "I just want to wait for the right time," or "I don't want to mess this up." But no matter how good they sound, excuses always carry one assignment: to delay your destiny. And they do it slowly. They don't rob your life all at once. They steal it in pieces: a missed opportunity here, a delayed decision there, a dream you push to someday, over and over again until someday becomes never. But your destiny was not designed to live in the shadows of hesitation. It was meant to move, to grow, to breathe. And that requires you to step out from behind the barrier of your excuses. Every person who ever made an impact, whoever changed their family, their city, their generation, had every reason to make excuses. They faced limitations, rejection, fear, and failure just like you. But what separated them wasn't access or ability, it was refusal. They refused to let their excuses outrun their obedience. They refused to let comfort talk them out of calling. They stopped waiting for ideal conditions and decided that purpose doesn't need permission. And neither do you. The uncomfortable truth is that you will never step into what you were created for until you confront what's been keeping you still. And most of the time, it's not a lack of opportunity. It's the belief that you're not enough. That voice in your head that says you're too late, or you're too broken, or you don't belong here. But listen closely. Your excuses may speak loud, but they are not telling the truth. The truth is, your life was designed with purpose. The truth is, greatness is in your bones. The truth is, no excuse is more powerful than your willingness to rise. Some of you are standing at the edge of what could be the most important season of your life, but you're still telling yourself the same tired reasons why you can't. And that's not because you're weak, it's because you've forgotten who you are. You've forgotten that growth is hard, that faith is risky, and that destiny doesn't wait forever. The people who reach it are not the ones with perfect resumes or flawless confidence. They're the ones who got tired of circling the same mountain and finally said, "No more. No more stalling. No more playing small. No more excuses. You don't need everything to line up before you move. You just need to believe that what's ahead of you is worth more than the comfort of staying behind. The pain of trying and falling is nothing compared to the pain of knowing you never gave it everything. The cost of stepping forward will never be greater than the cost of standing still. And when you decide to stop making excuses, you don't just change your life, you change the future of everyone connected to your life. Generations shift when one person decides to say, "I won't let excuses steal what was meant for me." So look at where you are, and look at what's ahead. Then look at what's standing between you and that future. If it's an excuse, it's got to go, because your destiny, it's still waiting, but it won't wait forever. So today, make the decision, not tomorrow, not next week, today. Decide that your excuses will no longer write the script of your life. Decide that fear doesn't get the final word, that doubt doesn't get the last vote, that your past doesn't cancel your future. You don't need to be perfect, you just need to be willing to take the step. Willing to break the pattern, willing to believe there's more in you than what's behind you. No more waiting, no more wishing, no more what if, no more excuses. It's time to move, it's time to rise. It's time to become everything you were created to be, because the life you're meant to live, it doesn't start when everything is easy. It starts when you say once and for all, I'm done making excuses, and I'm ready to walk in purpose. Let's go.